I thought I was done with church craziness, but I found some old notes, so I'm back for more. I think these were done by either Douglas Phillips, who got in trouble for having an affair and embezzling money, and I don't know if he got in trouble for embezzling money, but he at least got in trouble for having an affair. The other guy, I think, who was in charge of this was the San Antonio Christian Film Festival, which was, I think, run by Stephen Maxwell, but I could be wrong about that. But there's just so much insanity around in these notes. And the irony of, like, okay, so after I watch, and I might still have the DVDs that go to this, I don't think I do, but the films that were churned out by these people were just so awful. There's podcasts that are devoted to just reviewing Christian movies. I think one of them is the God Awful Podcast, or God Awful Films Podcast. I could be wrong about that, though. It's run by, I think, it's like a sister show of the Scathing Atheist Podcast. Where are Christian films? Not in LA. That's what it says here. These are my notes. I'm reading off of my notes. I made these back in August 16th, 2005. Christian films will never win Oscars. I mean, have you seen Christian movies? There's a reason why they're not going to win Oscars, and it has nothing to do with the Christian content in them. Oh, goodness. I mean, he's right. Christian films will never win an Oscar, not with the people that they've got in charge running things. So their beef was not with the quality of the movies. Their beef was that they're not Christian enough. Make movies with agendas, preach through films, do please the Lord or don't bother. Okay, well, I really wish they would just follow the advice of the latter, even if they're trying to do the former and not make movies at all. Their problem with The Hangman's Curse and Jonah in VeggieTales is that it does not point to Christ. They have nothing in there about Christ. So they didn't turn them into a total preaching montage. It's like their problem with movies is that they're not sermons. Like, you don't have somebody standing up at a podium and gathering money and doing the regular worship service. That's their problem with movies. Their version of a movie would just be a recorded church service. Peretti is mainstream / watered down. So you take a Christian extremist and you are going to hold him up as someone who's watered down. The church should be mainstream. I mean, it was back in the Middle Ages, in the Dark Ages. Don't reach out to the guy who is secular and is saying what he knows is Christian. Or no, let me read that again. Don't reach out to the guy who is secular and is saying he knows what is Christian. The problem with that is that secular people often know a lot more about Christianity than Christians do. They just don't want you to be influenced by those outside sources, because it would mean a diminution of their influence over their property, which is you. Bad Christian films are better than good secular films. Have you seen a Christian movie before? Any Christian movie? They are universally bad. There has never been one that has been not one of the worst movies produced of that year? Secular movies are substanceless. I don't know where they're getting this from. I mean, even Marvel movies have some substance to them. Or a good deal of substance and plenty of message in them. It's just that Christians don't want to hear it because they're too busy repeating what they've been reciting by rote. Unless you hate/give up your family, you can't follow God, which is their problem with family-friendly movies. They want you to hate your family. Give them money. You hate your family. It's like they want the church to be your idol, not your family. Christian movies change lives. They don't give an example for that. They just put it out there. One Bible verse doesn't make it Christian. So you've got to have what they're asking for, again, is a sermon. They're not looking to make a movie. They want a movie, if you can even attempt to call it that, to be just a regular sermon that's chock full of Bible verses and has little analysis to it, or anything other than Bible verses. Start with a Christian concept that needs to be taught, then build a script and story around it. So forget having good story, good characters, good actors, good producer, good director, any of the stuff that would make a not terrible movie, and just throw that stuff out. What you really need is a Christian lesson. And then he says, I haven't seen many secular movies since the 80s. I think we found the problem here. You must make people want to hear what you have to say. Yeah, I think short of torture, which, the Christians have a really good record of doing, you're really not going to have a wide audience for God's Not Dead 3. They actually made a God's Not Dead 3. As if, one wasn't enough. Film acting is natural. Just say the lines. I have seen enough movies from the 30s and 40s to know that is terrible advice. Which, makes perfect sense because this guy makes terrible movies and is a terrible person. But when you have people reading lines, you can tell that they're reading lines. Don't promise anything. I think that has to do with auditioning and stuff. Sheesh. It's okay to hire non-believers. I've got a beef with this. See, they separate people into the categories. This is their primary criterion for hiring actors. It's, are you going to hire someone who's a believer or not a believer, versus someone who's a crappy actor versus a good actor. Their values are just all in the wrong place. You can't really know who is truly saved. Despite there being Bible verses that set up the criteria for that explicitly. It's just people like this just want to make their own rules and then want to force people to follow them, using whatever power and money they have to get more of it. The Bible is really only secondary to that. So even when you talk about having wall-to-wall verses in a movie, that's really not their end goal. Their end goal is power over other people. So their advice for working with extras. Extras must sit for more than 10 hours. What are these people doing with their extras? I mean, I'm not going to say that this is unique to the San Antonio Christian Film Festival, but this doesn't seem like the ideal. I mean, here they're setting out like ideal circumstances for working with extras. Extras are unpaid. Good luck with that. Good luck with making a sequel or working with those same people again. So they're running down a list of components of movies, and number 6 is please God. So right in between have good lighting and give a movie substance is please God. It's like, okay, don't forget the imaginary friend in between takes. I don't have the energy to make up a good joke to that. It is its own joke. It's like these are the reasons why there aren't many Christians in the film industry, because you got people like this teaching their generation of filmmakers. So this is what the guy looks like. So if you've seen this man, report him to the authorities for making bad movies. Then instead of giving more instructions on how to make movies, keep in mind this is their big lecture, their keynote seminar. Their big panel. Filmmaking, legit for Christians, is acting lying? So these are their big concerns, their biggest concerns with movie making. Be ready to defend what you do biblically. I mean, just already you can tell they're not interested in making movies. They're interested in using this as a tool for propaganda. And using people as tools. You know how there's this pejorative sense of saying, you're a tool. This is what they're doing. They want other people to be their tools. In the worst sense imaginable. The modern world is debauchery. Exposure, you start doing it, imitating vices. So you start getting out into the world and behaving in a normal human manner, and this is considered debauchery, or debauchery. I pronounce it debauchery. Be in the world, not of it. So you want to float around like a superhuman angel, or as we'll see later in this thing, as a soldier, or terrorist. That works too. LA is dirty and depressing. I mean, that could describe the people giving the seminar. Dirty and depressing. Choose the employment where you will best serve God and avoid sin. In other words, avoid reality. Then we've got even more Bible verses. The world is going out of style. I wonder how old the clothes that these people giving the sermon were. If they didn't already have their own corporate logo stamped on a custom printed t-shirt that they maybe got a discount on because they were fighting with the manager of the store. Don't use your gifts to get money, in spite of other sermons where they will tell you, use your gifts to get money to give to the church. Christians should be running. Christians are the new Levites. Christians should be running the government. Like, it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough that we had this for hundreds and hundreds of years in England and in Europe. And now in the U.S. We've got to have it now in the U.S. too. They want to drag us kicking and screaming back to the Dark Ages, where you have no progress technologically, no progress in the medium of telling stories or making movies. It's always going to be the same. Filmmaking is a sensuality trap. So if you're sensing things, it's a trap. Filmmaking lets you get your foot in the door to control everything, which is what they really want. They want to control everything. They want to have control over the government. They want to have control over you, your mind, your soul, your emotions, your body. Especially get control of your body. If they can get control of that, they can find other ways to control you. Life isn't for fun. It's for battle. So here we have violence being employed as the tool that you should be using as a Christian to get what you want. Film is spiritually dangerous because it's fun. Yeah, because you might have actual good feelings instead of feeling miserable and suffering all the time like you do in Christianity. So to sum up, we've got some terrorists that are encouraging you never to feel good and to have a movie that's a 90-minute long sermon produced by people who don't know if acting is lying or not. Film is a religious weapon for indoctrination. I can't make this stuff up. I mean, I'm literally just reading my notes from these fascists. James 3:1, let not all be teachers. You'll incur a more stricter... Hang on, let me start over. James 3:1, let not all be teachers. Then the note after that is, you'll incur a stricter judgment. You'll be more responsible for other people. It's just, all these people are concerned about is... what's going to happen next in their death cult. Film teaches doctrine. Beware. Choose your position and training carefully to avoid helping the bad guys. So let me get this straight. The terrorists that are making this seminar speech are the ones telling you that the other people are the bad guys. The ones telling you that fun and sensuality is a bad thing, they're the ones that are the good guys here. Be a wise leader, not a blind follower. If you'd have given that advice like first thing in your sermon / panel here, I'm pretty sure people wouldn't be listening to the rest of it. If you'd given that at the beginning of your ministry, people probably wouldn't be listening to you anymore. I am sweating because it's warm in my room. Filmmakers lie about everything, including reality. Have you ever seen a documentary before, or is that just a new concept to you? Actually, one of the movies in their DVD packet that they produced was a documentary, and as you can predict, it was boring and poorly made, as everything else in the DVD pack was. Okay, so then they've got a list of questions you're supposed to ask yourself. Again, most of which are unrelated to movie making at all. Are you teaching with truth and sound doctrine? Are you growing in grace and humility? This kind of stuff makes me want to figure out what happened to these people 14 years after the fact. I'm hoping that they're well out of business and this whole thing is just buried in the ground. Do you obey your parents? Are you pursuing scriptural literacy? Do you have vigor and spiritual vigor? Are you building your convictions? Again, nothing related to actually making movies. For goodness sake. Okay, government videos, not good for principle. The 8th commandment forbids this. What? I'm pretty sure most Christians aren't even going to agree with this guy. I mean, these are some of the worst people you should ask for advice from. They're the people that are the deepest embedded into this machine of theocracy. Hollywood's culture is fading. The irony is that this was made 14 years ago, and pretty much Hollywood culture is still the same. Hollywood is vulgar. The irony here is that you've got really nasty, despicable people calling other people vulgar. Okay, so then this next set of notes was made on August 17th, 2005, so right after the last one. No audience, do discipleship. So basically they're saying preach to the choir. There's always going to be a group of saps that are going to, you can sucker into, not sucker like S-U-C-C-O-R, like sucker as in like to bait someone into watching your movie just because it's Christian, because those Christians, they'll watch anything, right? I mean, that's what they're saying here. Geoff Botkin used to be a Marxist. This might be the guy that's actually giving the seminar. The media defiled him. It's like every now and then they'll be talking about something and then they'll just suddenly slip into like cult lingo. It's like, pick a trade that will let you work with, teach, and be with your family. Involve your family. Why? My family is terrible people. You do not want to involve them and stuff. Oh, it's true. You're in any business to expand God's borders. Just more creepiness. Now I can throw out this stuff, having thoroughly addressed it, I guess. It's just, let me see if they're still in even existence. Woo! The festival was closed in December 2013 due to Vision 4 Ministries shutting down. Ah, that's good. So in 2013, they made a movie called The Monstrous Regiment of Women, an anti-feminist documentary directed by the Gunn brothers, blah, 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 blah. Nice people. Not. It's like these people are, it's like you've got over here the Independent Movie Festival, and then over here you've got the crazy Independent Film Festival, or like just the plain evil one. They made a movie, like they gave an award to in a movie about reintroducing wolves into Yellowstone National Park because the ranchers didn't like it. So it's like, you know, the whole saving the endangered species and everything. Let's go against that, because that can't possibly be a good thing. It's like, what's the worst decisions that we can make? Let's make those decisions. Like, the worst decision would be continuing to hold the festival. After 2005, it went until 2013. So how did they even manage to string this thing along? Well, it's because you got people like Douglas Phillips, who, no matter how evil the people are, they just continue to be given power, because Christians value the agenda and extending God's borders, and Hollywood is vulgar, and just demonizing the entire planet, everything that is not in their cult. It's like everything bad in the world is a good thing, and everything good in the world is a bad thing, according to these people. It's like they're self-styled supervillains, except without the super, and really without the villains. They're just kind of dirtbags. I mean, that's the most they can aspire to be, because they're just such small, uninfluential, substanceless people. But I'm glad to hear that it's no longer in existence.